are really excited that you have joined us. We have our EL data specialist today. She's going to share a lot of really good information about Access Scale scores. So thank you, everyone. I see that more people are joining. So we hope that everyone has joined by when we have our special guest today sharing. So this is the Fall PD series. We have been working with the team, Ivana Manthrower Anderson, Marshall Foster, Susan Walz, and Dr. Christy Day and Setli Stocks, working on Mondays from 3:30 to 4:30 to bring some important information that might help you during your instruction. So this is the bit.ly link, bit.ly/20 Fall PD series. All the presentations for our Fall PD series, the different slide decks, the shared resources, and the recordings are being shared on this page. This link will take you to our Google site, and then you will be able to access that information. So if you are active on social media, please use hashtag NCLs and share all the information and everything that we are talking about today. And if you have more resources you want to share, just please do so. And let me see, we are going to start. As I said, my name is Setli Stocks. I'm one of the ESL Title III consultants at DPI, and I support the eastern regions of the state. And I want to invite my colleague, Susan Walz, to introduce herself.
Thank you, Sally. I am Susan Walz, and I am the data specialist for the ESL Title III team at NCDPI. I'm really excited to do this today with Sally, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Susan. So we're going to review our WebEx controls very quickly. You should see two panels on the screen. You have participants and chat. We have the chat available, so you can either send a specific question that you might want to do privately to us, the presenters, or you can share information and share all your questions and suggestions in the chat with all the participants. You just need to make sure that before you click enter, your message says all participants. You have selected that option, so then we all can see. And we will be monitoring the chat. Let me open the chat. And Susan and I will be monitoring, so we make sure that you have access. So I'm going to say something, and please, if you can hear me clearly, type something in the chat so we know that you can hear and we are ready to start our presentation for today. All right, thank you. I see we're getting some. Perfect, awesome. That's great. Our cams are not working today, and we have a lot of different links, so we don't want to have any glitches, and that's what you can see us, but we want to make sure that you can hear and you get all the information. So please be free to share all your thoughts, suggestions, recommendations, questions in the chat. And I'm going to continue. The second option that we're going to use today for our polls, we're going to use Mentimeter. And it's super easy to use. You can do it on your phone, and we recommend that you do it on the phone, because if you open another tab on your browser, it might be a little tricky sometimes to come back to the presentation. But if you can do it, you have done it before, that's completely okay. But it's easier on the phone, and you will need to open a browser and type menti.com. And once you enter menti.com, it will request a code. And once we start our polls, we were going to give you this code. I'm going to continue with the poll, so it doesn't take a lot of time. So this is the first one. We want to know who has joined us today. So in your phone, you're going to type, and we're going to do it. Let me see that everything is working. And we're going to type menti.com, and you're going to enter the code that is on the screen, 5648621. And I'm going to open our Mentimeter so we know who is answering and giving us some answers. There are different options. You are an ESL teacher. Are you a lead teacher? Are you a content area teacher? Let us know who has joined us today. Can you see my screen, Susan?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. So we see we're getting some answers. We have 25 participants have completed this. If we're going to provide a little more time, a few seconds, so you can access. Remember the options is, are you an ESL teacher, lead teacher, a content area teacher, a school administrator, or other? And those of you who have said other, feel free to add in the chat and say, okay, might be an instructional coach or speech pathology. So just let us know who has joined us today. And I'm going to type on the chat. It's menti.com and then the code, and you can see the code at the top of the slide. So we see, I think we had a good number, so we're going to continue. And we see we have 18 participants have said they are ESL teachers. So thank you for joining us. And we want to share with this fall PD series, we have shared with our attendees that if you are an ESL teacher, please come to the next session inviting a content area teacher or an administrator. We want to build capacity for our English learners. So if you have signed up for other sessions, please invite another teacher. Maybe it could be another ESL teacher who has not participated before, or better if it's a content area teacher, so they get all these strategies and they have access to different resources. So we have a few lead teachers and then we have others. And in the chat, we see we have some district administrators. So thank you for joining us today. I'm going to close this and we're going to continue. The next couple of polls are about our presentation today because we want to know a little more what you know about this information we will cover today. So the question is, how often do you use your Access? Oh, what did I do? Access scale scores. So at the beginning of the year, every quarter, I don't know how to use them. I'm not sure what these are. So I'm going to add the link so you can see the poll and you can participate. Again, the code is on the screen, or you also can see it at the top of the slide. So we want to hear from you because if you have a lot of knowledge on Access Scale scores, then we can adapt a little our presentation and give you more resources. So, and somebody's asking in the chat, you don't need to download the app. You just open a Google search and you type menti.com, and I'm putting it in the chat. And when you enter that and you click enter, the system will request the code. So you don't need to download any apps. That's the beauty of this platform, this tool, and we love it and we are using it because it's very interactive. So now that we all are working remotely and we have to add some interaction in our instruction, these kind of tools are really neat for this. So you don't need to download any app, just type menti.com on a Google search and then click on Mentimeter, join Menti Poll, and then enter the code. So I see just a few more seconds to get more answers. So remember the code is at the top of the screen and it says it's 9655807, and then you click submit and then you have the options and you select the one that you think is more appropriate to your answer. So we have 23 people have participated and we have 40 people who have joined us today. So go ahead, enter your answers. We are going to provide a few more seconds. See if we get more participation. And remember, you don't need to download the app. If you are on an Apple, an iPhone, then you can, I don't use iPhone, so now you know. If you are on an iPhone, then you just select Safari and type menti.com, and then you will have to enter the code. If you are on an Android device, it will be the same. Just search and a Google search and then menti.com, and then you will be able to access. Okay, we're going to close this poll. And we had some people said, Susan, and I know this information is very important for you right now. Some people said that they have used access scale scores at the beginning of the year. Others, the second said every quarter. They use it every quarter. A few people said they don't really know how to use them, and we have somebody participated. Great, thank you for participating because this is going to help us during the presentation. And then the fourth group says, I'm not sure what these are. And that's completely okay. If you don't know what access scale scores are, then you are in the right place and you are with the right people because Susan Walz will give you all the goodies and then you will understand what those scale scores are about. So thank you very much. I'm going to move because we really want to take advantage of our time together today. And the last poll that we have for you is, do you collaborate with your content or an ESL teachers about access scale scores? Do you talk with them about the access scale scores? Yes or no? And remember that this is anonymous, so it's okay to say no. And this is why we're here today. So if the answer is no, that's completely okay. And I'm going to share the poll on the screen. And okay, do you collaborate with content or ESL teachers about access scale scores? Okay, so we're getting some answers. Okay, thank you. And we have 43 participants have joined today. So we have 14 have participated. Please just tell us if it's no, the answer, that's completely okay. We just want to know because then we are going to give you some resources so you can do it if your answer is no. Okay, just a few seconds. So we get a few more answers and then we're going to continue. So we see we have 19 participants. Can we make it to 25 participants? Let's see, this is like, okay, we got to 20. Let's see, who else? 21, there you go. And you see, Susan, at the bottom on the right, you can see the number of
I do see it.
submissions.
Yes. You're so funny, Sally.
So let's see, 23. Perfect. Let us know because then that's how Susan is going to adapt what she's telling us today. And I'm really excited that we're going to have these 23, two more people, and we continue. Let's see, 23. Have you collaborated? It's hard during this time. We are all trying to tackle too many tasks, and sometimes
It's true.
collaboration might not be our priority. But okay, 24. One more, the last one.
Well, we got an answer in the chat that said they are driving home,
Perfect.
so they can't answer. So at least they're paying attention.
Awesome. And thank you for joining us. And please drive safely and help you
Yeah, that's
get home.
very, very kind of you. That's a
Yeah.
dedicated person.
Oh, yeah. We love our teachers in the state. Okay, so no more from these polls. I see we have, Susan, 25 participants. We got it. 26 with our driver. And we have 15 participants have collaborated in one way or another with content area teachers and ESL teachers about the use of access scale scores. So that gives you an idea. And thank you for
Yes,
participating.
thank you.
And we love this. So now I'll be quiet and I'm going to invite Susan to please share with us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for participating in those polls. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Sattler. You're so good at the Mentimeter.
It's so
You make
funny.
it look so easy. So by the end of this presentation, we hope that you have a better understanding of scale scores and how you can find instructional opportunities within those scale scores. We hope that you might be interested in using them to set some goals with your students and work in collaboration with your content teachers, all to increase the growth for our English learners. Do you want to go ahead, Satli? Thank you. So I just have to say, ethically speaking, whenever I do these kinds of presentations, when I'm only looking at one data field, I always feel it necessary to say that we know our students are far more complex than data. And so this is just a quick way of saying that, and we understand that, and we know that you understand that as well. But if we're going to talk about access scores, in my opinion, as an ESL teacher for 10 years, for me as an ESL teacher, it was the scale score that was most useful to me. And so really that's what I'm talking about, my own personal experience with scale scores. Okay, Satli? Thank you. When we talk about data-driven instruction, anytime we look at that kind of data-driven instruction, we look at 3 steps. First, the assessment itself, and of course today we're looking at WIDA access for ELs. Then we want to analyze the data. We've all gotten our access reports back, and today we're talking about scale scores. And hopefully, in step 3, you can take some action to look for opportunity gaps that exist for our students and find some instructional ways to support them. Typically, when we look or talk about access data, we do it in 2 ways. We talk about the accountability model, which is growth and proficiency for the school, and we talk about student growth, which is a focused measure for academic achievement. So I appreciate that proficiency proves that students have met a specific educational standard or goal at a certain point in time. But as an ESL teacher, I spent all my time with students focused on growth because growth indicated or indicates improvement and learning over time, which is, as we know, for ESL students, the process is over time. So looking at growth at the beginning of the year helped me set a path for the year. Satli? Thank you. So access, I know a lot of ESL teachers are on this, but we have some other teachers who are not as familiar with access scores. So I'm going to quickly run through what access scores are. And we usually get 3 sets of data points from access: our composite scores, our domain proficiency levels, and our scale scores. WIDA tells us to be very careful when we consider our composite scores. In general, about the only time I see composite scores in use is through the accountability model. If some of you use them in a different way, by all means, please share that in the chat. Theoretically, the composite scores summarize a student's performance, but some students, I know ESL teachers have seen this, have identical overall scores, but have very different profiles in terms of their proficiency level domains. One student might have a stronger score in reading than in writing, but their composite scores are the same. So that leads us to look at proficiency levels in each domain for more information. So proficiency level scores are interpretive scores that describe the student's performance in terms of the 6 WIDA language levels, from entering to reaching, bridging, all of those exciting moments. As an ESL teacher setting goals with my students, I would say to them, here's your proficiency level score. And there was no recognition of what that meant to them. And that's when I started looking further at scale scores. And once I looked at scale scores, I never looked back. Next slide, please, Satli. I love scale scores because they are they track student growth over time. Scale scores place students on a single continuum that stretches from kinder through 12th grade. You can see students' performance and hopefully growth within each domain. You can make comparisons across grade levels. Um, for example, using a scale score, you can track how a student's reading ability increases from 4th to 7th grade. And these were extraordinarily useful when I was talking to administrators and content teachers who were contemplating grade retention, because they couldn't see a measure of growth. And with scale scores, it shows you growth really easily. I did want to make one note, though, when you're looking at your scale scores, and this is really a clarification for people who are new to scale scores, is that they are domain specific. A scale score of 215 in listening is not the same as a scale score of 215 in speaking. So you just want to be very careful. Okay, Satli. So proficiency levels are grade specific, and we wanted to include this graphic because I think it does a really nice job of showing that. So you have a reading scale score of 355, and you add your student in 5th grade, their proficiency level would be a 4.0. Same reading scale score in 4th grade, the proficiency level is a 4.6. And then in 3rd grade, same reading scale score, you have a proficiency level of 5.2. So as you can see, proficiency levels are grade specific, but scale scores are not. Next slide, Satli. So when we find specific places to help EL students, the better off our students are. I believe scale scores is a place where we can do that. And you can look at scale scores historically and look for trends. Look at the history. What's the trend? Where do you see gaps? How big are the gaps? And where can we find opportunities for growth? Now, as Satli said earlier, we know that this is a really difficult time for everybody. We're not trying to put more work on your plate. Nobody knows what access testing is going to look like this year. So this is just something to share with you. When you have time to use it, by all means, please feel free, and we're happy to help you do that. Next slide, Satli. So we're going to find the opportunity gaps for growth. Most students have domain strengths, and we look at their strengths and we leverage them. So we also look for the opportunity gaps and find strategies to decrease those gaps. So goal setting, I think, is so much easier with students. I've said that, but I'm going to say it again because I think it's so much easier. But if you look at a student, if the goal is 5.0, keep going, Satli. So we have a 5.0 bridging. That's what we're going for at a grade level scale score of 353. Your student scored a scale score of 300 with a proficiency level of 3.9. Your gap, your opportunity for instruction is in that gap. Keep going, please. So if we understand what's required, we look at what the obstacles are and we utilize strategies in those gaps, we can effectively or intentionally use instruction to close those gaps. I appreciate this isn't magic. And if you're working with collaboratively with your content teachers, they want to see growth with the students just as much as we do. And I remember when I was in a middle school PLC with sixth grade teachers, and I shared the speaking scores and talked about these opportunity gaps. These teachers jumped in. And sometimes in our teaching careers, there are moments, I'm sure you've all had them, where everybody's on the same page and you feel like everybody in the room understood. And that was one of those moments because these teachers, we were talking about speaking scores and how to increase our speaking scores. They decided in that moment, they adopted their journaling, their required journaling for all of their students to include a weekly audio journal. And they also required specific vocabulary be incorporated into that weekly audio journal. And it was great because it wasn't just for EL students, it was for all students. And they got it. Sally, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So the other thing that I think is the biggest benefit of scale scores for me was student understanding. If I said to my student, you need to grow from a 3.9 to a 4.5, they didn't understand that. It was the numbers meant nothing to them. But if I said you're at a 300 and you need to get to a 326, and we put that on a bar graph and we colored those scales and we colored those grades, they understood it. We talked about how we would get there together and the things that we would focus on. I stopped talking to them about exit scores. I stopped talking to content teachers about exit scores. I tried to stop talking to administrators about exit scores, and I would speak to scale scores all the time. That's what I focused on. And the students picked goals. The students shared their goals with their content teachers. We were all on the same page. We found domain experts in our classrooms. We applied that to our classwork. So if there were teachers, or I'm sorry, if there were students who are our domain experts, we would call upon them to share their expertise in classroom activities. If there was somebody needing help, we worked on partnering a domain expert with someone who needed help in that domain. And I'll tell you, I love unexpected outcomes because one of the things that happened in that middle school is all of those kids were in an ES on a team together. And so those experts started helping students in regular classes. The ESL kids in regular classes would go to their domain expert and say, what does this word mean? Or what does the teacher mean when she says this? And it was just this unexpected consequence of our work in the ESL classroom that was, oh, I don't know, it was just really magical. And the teachers saw it, the content teachers saw it, and it worked so beautifully. Okay, I'll stop gushing about that. Next slide, please. So understanding data for your schools is you look at these two things. There's a PDF on the WIDA website. If you don't have access to it, let us know and we will share it with you. But it is the scale score to proficiency level PDF. And in there, you can see where a scale score starts and where it ends, where the next one begins. And this is where you will find and plot your students. The other thing that you always want to know about, I know we have some not I think we had one or two administrators on here, but in the NCDPI calculating EL progress measure business rules, we've linked that to the DPI page, accountability page. A lot of you may not have anything to do with that, but you will want to be familiar with those business rules because it's important for progress, growth, and proficiency for your students. I am just going to say one more thing, Satli, on our next slide before I turn this back over to Satli. And that is we all need to change the conversation about access speaking tests. They are here to stay. We, as ESL teachers, have to figure out how to embrace them, find our opportunity for growth, understand what's required, how is the test scored, identify the obstacles, try to create an atmosphere where headsets and Chromebooks disappear. It was in my last year of teaching the same middle school where I was working with the scale scores in the 6th grade ESL team or content team. My principal, I was new to the school, and the principal asked me to come in and talk to him about access scores. And so, of course, I came equipped with more data than he wanted to see. But we talked about our scale scores, and we looked at how the scale scores were different than the other scale scores in the other domains. We talked about that there is no other test in North Carolina delivered the way the speaking test is delivered. So I asked for, and he gave me the computer lab for the day on Fridays. And it was a big deal because there are a lot of classes wanting to use the computer lab in the middle school. But he shut it off and turned it over to the ESL kids on Fridays. Yes, the children fought it. They came in. It probably took them 2 months before they came in without complaining. But finally, about the beginning of November, they walked in, they grabbed their headsets, and they would just do the assignment that was created for them to do. And there were 34 students in that 34 ESL students in that school. And out of that 34, 26 of them made growth on their speaking scale score. And it was, or on their speaking score, on their speaking test. And it was huge. And we were thrilled with it. I think it was not all in part to our ESL labs. I think it was a team effort. But I think being in the lab every week, having an assignment on the headsets, making them understand they had to talk no matter what their neighbor was saying, no matter what they heard going on in the room, they had to talk. Another unexpected consequence of this, which I loved even more than the speaking scores, was that the principal would come in probably every 2 to 3 weeks and just sit down and listen and watch and talk to the kids and participate in what they were doing and praise them. And he noticed, he saw the change in them with their speaking. And to me, that was more important than the scores because the children were being recognized for their work and their growth. And it was fantastic. So that's what I think about the speaking skills test. So you can go ahead. I'm going to turn it back over to Satli, and she's going to talk about some of the instructional strategies that we have to share with you.
Okay, Susan, I think we have one or two questions in the chat. So the first one, where can this information be found, the presentation, so they access all the links? I share in the chat our bit.ly link so you can access. Once the recording is ready, possibly tomorrow morning, we're going to link the recording and also share the Google Slides and PDF version of this presentation. This is a question for you, Susan. It says, how do we learn how to test, how the tests are scored?
It's a
Speaking and
great
writing.
question. That's a great question.
Is this on the WIDA site?
Yes, it is on the WIDA site. And we have a tendency, I had a tendency to just skim through those trainings. Oh, I did this last year. Oh, this is not. Oh, I already know this. I know this. Until I thought, how are those really scored? And I went in and I did that training, and they show you how those tests are scored. They're also WIDA webinars, and we can share some of those with you as well, some links to those. If you go into the downloadable resource library or the resource library in the WIDA website, there are webinars about the speaking and writing tests. So WIDA has quite a few resources for you. Also the rubrics about what is expected, the WIDA rubrics for speaking and writing are extremely helpful to guide you into what they're looking for. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking it.
And Susan, maybe some of our attendees have accessed the secure portal, but they don't know exactly where all this information you're sharing is located.
Okay.
So if
Do you
you
see do you see
go
that
ahead.
download library that you're talking about right there up under my account and secure portal? There you go. If you click on that, there are resources in here. In here, you'll see the PDF that I was referring to, the Access for L's scale score to proficiency level. If you go down a little bit, Sattli, there are access webinars, there's information, resources for educators. Also, I'm sorry, I can't see very well because it's tiny on my screen, but
Oh,
there
let
are,
me
but you'll
try to.
see just a number of different resources in there.
Correct. And the way to access where is the same portal that you use when you are working on the trainings for the WIDA screened, correct?
Correct.
So you just need to log in, and then once you log in, you will see the document library.
Right.
You have access to all these different resources, and the ones that Susan is talking about is specifically here, the access webinars, and at the top, the other PDF documents.
Right. And if you can't find them, email me and I'll send you the links.
Correct, yes. And this document shows exactly how WIDA determine how the scores would be, the scale scores, and the interpretation of the scores. So we invite you to look at this, and then you will see exactly what is it. And sometimes we know when we were in the classroom, and I love that Susan talked about her experience and what happened is we talk about the proficiency levels, but we rarely talk about the scale scores. So that's what we are trying to see how we make that switch and we understand better how the scale scores work and how that impact the growth and the progress in the language proficiency.
Absolutely right.
So we don't have any more questions. I'm going to
Okay.
share, I think this is slide that's coming up is yours or?
Well, we just talked about, I thought it was yours, but we can talk about leveraging student domain strengths and the strategies to grow the gaps. And Sattli is going to take you through some of those strategies. And the only thing I can say to you is set your goals with your classroom teachers, with your students, and share them with your classroom teachers because as we said earlier, they want those students to grow just as much as we do. And they are our partners now more than ever. They are our collaborating with them is so critical, especially in remote and blended learning or blended instruction.
Yes, that's true. And we make this connection about setting goals with your students. And what Susan said, the more students understand uh, proficiency levels, the scale scores, and how they can make progress, it's easier for them to take ownership of their own language learning. So it's not just
Absolutely.
you trying to help them and doing the best you can in your instruction. It's helping the students understand it's their own learning. They need to take ownership and start working on those and practice every time they can. It's not only during if it's pulled out or now that we're virtually, if they have these office hours, it's not just that small time that they have to spend with their ESL teacher, it's every single opportunity they have to use the language will help them. And if they know exactly how they need to grow, what is it that is expected for the following year, then it's going to be easier. So then it's like if I'm trying to lose weight, then I need to know how much, how many pounds is it that I need to lose. And it's not just I'm losing weight for sake of losing weight. Is I need to do it. I need a purpose, so I need to do it maybe because of health, or maybe because I is confidence. Different purposes. So they need to understand that, and then say, okay, so in the next couple of months, what are you gonna do to be able to change that way that you want to lose, and how many pounds is it? So setting those goals. This is a silly example, but setting those goals is what helps you realize and see, okay, that is my goal. What is it that I need to do to accomplish that? And maybe I need a trainer, a personal trainer, and that person is going to help me. So it's exactly the same. The student needs to take control of that and be able to say, okay, I need to be, this is my goal, and these are the steps I'm going to take to grow, but I need my personal trainer, my ESL rock star next to me, helping me along the way with my content area teachers because they collaborate. So it's kind of like a partnership. And but if they don't take that ownership because maybe they don't understand, it's going to be a longer and maybe harder path towards their goal. So we have at the department one tool that helps the students with these setting goals and specifically about language learning. And the tool is LinguaFolio. And we have used LinguaFolio since 2008, and it's a formative assessment tool, and it's free. We have all the materials on our website, on our Google site. We have the Google site that is housing all the different materials. And you see on the screen the little Bitmoji. We call it our virtual office. And Dr. Anne-Marie Ganter, she's the World Languages consultant. We work together in collaboration, and we organize and we develop and we have curated the different resources from LinguaFolio, and you can access this. And the beauty of LinguaFolio is that it's proficiency based. So the students will see, and there are different components, and you can have, for example, when the student is working on their biography and they learn, what is it that I know already with the language? So we see this from a can do perspective. What is it that I already know that I can do with the language? And then what is it that I need to do to grow? If, for example, today I can communicate about certain topic, but I want to expand my vocabulary on that topic, or being able to talk about it in a more deep way, what is it that I need to do? And maybe I can speak about the topic, but I can write, and I struggle when I read about the same topic. So what is it that I need to do? So the different components of LinguaFolio, the first stage is the assessment. So the student understands what is it that I already know and what is it that I need to do to be able to do something else with the language. And everything is about the language and the different domains. So if I master, for example, those of us who learn the language, the second language in our countries in a classroom, our reading and writing are really good, but we struggle with listening and speaking. So we know that we need to practice that every day. For our students, they are involved in the oral language, so they master the social language. That interaction is mastered very easily, but they struggle with academic language. So once they understand that, and it's not only us, the ones with that knowledge, we say, hey, this is what you should know. This is the way that you could take to grow. Then they say, oh, I can do this. So LinguaFolio is a tool that is a student-centered, and it aims at helping the student take that ownership. It's an autonomous learning tool, so it helps the students work on their own process and set their own goals. So if when you get access to the slides, and we're going to put the slides later and the video recording tomorrow because it takes a little bit while it renders, then you will have access to all the links. But LinguaFolio has different formats. So maybe some of you have used the PDFs in the past. Then we had LinguaFolio Junior because that was targeting the smaller kids, like K through second grade. And then we had LinguaFolio Online. And we have all the materials housed on our Google site, the LinguaFolio for North Carolina. And we also have professional development. So if you see like, okay, I'm going to help my students understand where is it that where are they with the language? I have my access scores, so I can help them with that. I know this is the scale score. These are the proficiency scores. Now, let's see what is it that they need to learn to improve and maybe be better in certain topics or in certain proficiency, improving their proficiency level in certain language domain. So once you start collaborating and working with the students, they take that ownership. So when you explore the LinguaFolio website, you see all those materials. You can look at the world languages, but we have also a page dedicated for ESL. So you can see this. And if you explore the professional development, we have LinguaFolio, an introduction to LinguaFolio via Canvas LMS, the learning management system. And you can complete this in your own time. It's a self-paced course. It's very specific. It will give you all the details of how you can use the different components and how you can start creating the portfolio, and the students use it and they see like, because it's great to have this course, but when they see the progress during the year and then they see, oh, I got these scores in my access assessment because I work during the whole year building all these different skills that I had to do. I had my practice with my headset, I had my speaking, I was recording my voice, I was using certain tools to be able to write and read, and they will see. So I really invite you to work on this. And if you have more questions on LinguaFolio and you cannot find it on the website, just send me an email and I can work with you and help you in that, because we really want our teachers to be able to use LinguaFolio, because this is the way to help our students setting those goals and making it a very easy way for them to understand, oh, I need to learn about this and how can I reach that goal. So another tool that we have, and I think
Hold on,
yes,
Sattli.
yes.
Someone has asked if it's free.
So we have the PDF and all the materials, and the LinguaFolio has three components: the biography, the passport, and the checklist. All that is free access to all our teachers. But then when we created the LinguaFolio online through Castles, and Castles is the University of Oregon, they created a platform online to record the different evidences, because when the kids, the students, they set their goals, they start collecting evidence of their work. So what is it that they're doing to reach their goal? So Castles, what they did is they created this online platform where the students and the teachers were able to select the different can-do statements, because LinguaFolio is based on the can-do statements. So they can select the can-do statements, and then the kids will see it. And then they can also add evidence like the recordings or writing, different media showing what they're doing to reach their goals. So what happens is the teachers, they have a free account, so they can access, they can create their courses, they can assign their can-do statements to their kids and help them with this, with setting the goals. But the platform has an online app that is used on the phone or any other device for the students to collect their evidence. That piece of that LinguaFolio online, it's paid, and is, I think it's 150, no, give me 1 second. It's $1.50, and I gave somebody a heart attack over there. I'm sorry. It's $1.50 the year subscription per student. And if you explore the LinguaFolio website, we have that information. And on September the 10th, we're going to have our beginning of the year LinguaFolio broadcast. So if you join, you will learn about this. But yeah, if you want to collect in this specific platform, every evidence that your students are collecting, that has a price, and the price is annually and is $1.50 per student. I think if you go straight to the castles page and you look, it will say $2 or $3, but North Carolina has a special discount, and our teachers will have to pay $1.50 for each student they want to log in and be able to record and do all the evidence. But we have learned so many digital tools during these 6 months in the past, during the spring, that you can use, yes, that you can use, and I'll share the link so you can access. And as I said, everything is on the Google site, and you can go and explore and learn about it. And if you still have some questions, just send me an email and I'll help you. But there are many tools that will help you collect the evidence. Most likely your district has Canvas or Google Classroom, so you can create something where you can collect all this evidence for your students if there are no funds in your district to provide this for your kids. But I really recommend LinguaFolio because that's the way to show the kids how they can set their goals for language learning. Any other questions, Super Susan? I think we don't have any
I
more
don't think
questions.
so.
Okay.
I put a
Uh,
link in the chat, or I can't put a link because it's on the WIDA website, on the secure website, but I looked at the download library, and on August 3rd, they released a webinar, the speaking test and how it is scored. So that will help answer that question. I haven't
yeah.
seen that yet, so I'm very excited to go in and watch it.
Hmm. And this, you need to log in into the secure portal because
Yes.
it's not open to all educators in the nation. It's only for the WIDA state. And that's why you have to log in. And being in North Carolina, you will have access to all those resources. You just need to log in. And if you don't have, I think Susan said that they can contact you if they don't have access, or
Yes.
they.
Or they need to contact their district test coordinator. But if you guys can't figure it out, then it would go to your regional accountability coordinator because that's how the access is given.
Mhm.
But if nobody's helping you, just let me know. We'll figure it out for you.
Yes. Okay, and the second tool that I want to share before we talk about other strategies, and maybe Susan can help us with that as well, is Go Open and See. We offered last week our session on Go Open and our teacher network together for ELS. So if you didn't attend that session, I would really recommend that you go and check the video and the presentation, because this is the way to start using strategies and learning about resources that have been shared by other teachers, and start that collaboration and networking opportunities. And we have the teacher network. We have a group of leaders, and they have been developing different activities during the last year. And now we are inviting more teachers to join the network. And there are two options to join and access all these opportunities and have these conversations on AL education and what we're doing during remote instruction. And one is if you join the group that is on the screen, when you access Go Open and See. And the way to access Go Open is when you enter your NCED cloud, you will see the little icon, but it's not little here, the map that says Go Open and See. So when you go to Power School, some people call it Power School, other teachers just go to Mises for professional development, or when they need to complete their evaluation. So there you should see this icon, the map that says Go Open and See. And when you access there, then you have all the information, and you can, and I linked on this slide, the, the group we're talking about. So you can join and you can get all the information. And if you don't have access to, you go on NCA Cloud, you don't see it, you will have the link to log in through this platform. So you will be able to see Go Open. And this is a wonderful resource. that is open source. The idea is that everyone collaborates and contributes. And we have had different academies in which we invite teachers from the field, and they work on different resources, and they review the quality of these resources. They make sure that they are standard aligned, and we have our standards here. So I will show you. I hope you can see my screen. We have the different standards, and we have English language development standards. So if you want to look for something specifically there, maybe the language of math, the language of social studies, depending on what you're working on, then you will be able to access this. But if you just want to search something about English learners, we have more than 500 resources in this repository already that you can access. So if you want to, let me see if I can access without having, and you will see, yeah, it will take you to your NCED cloud and you will have to log in. So if we have a minute, let me try to enter and show you, although we're running out of time, but you have the link. So don't worry if you, let me go back to the presentation. I think I broke this. Let me see, resend. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, not your,
they go open and
right,
see.
not the go open.
Okay. Yeah, not
Sorry.
the system. I think we have 3 more minutes and I don't
I
want
do. Right.
to go and explore, but I really invite you. You're going to have access to the link and you can watch and see how you can join this group so you can start looking and accessing all this information. And this will help you as well, because if you have work, for example, with LinguaFolio, your students are setting their goals and you both have worked on, okay, what are those topics we want to work on? How is this aligned to the instruction that is going on in other content areas? Then you can find resources that are standard aligned and high quality in this Go Open and See. And if you have created some, that most of us create resources all the time, and we also remix or adapt resources. For example, Susan, she creates something and she uses with her students, and then she shares that resource with me. But my students are a little different. They might be in another proficiency level. They might have to work more on one language domain or the other one. So what I do is I remix that activity and I make it my own so I can use it with my specific kids and target their needs. So this is what happens in Go Open. You have that opportunity. If you have something you can share, you can do it. Or if you find something that you think you can use and you adapt it, then you can resubmit that remixed resource. So this is really powerful. So we invite you to check that. And I'll continue because we run out of time. We had plenty of resources. We had our Growing Success for L Summer Conference, and we have 3 sessions specific to access scores. Our trainers, what they did is they divided these sessions in the different grade levels. So we have elementary, middle, and high school. So based on the students that you serve, you can go to the link and then you can access and see what are those strategies that our trainers share, so you can understand how the access scores work, how the proficiency levels are considered, and how the access scale scores are the ones that we need to focus on so we can help the students grow in their language. And there are other, I don't know if you want to talk about one in specifically, Susan, or we continue because it's 4:29.
Right.
If
We
you
need to
want to share,
continue. No, but
okay.
the go-to strategies matrix that is the second link on there is very helpful as well.
And you will have access to all this. We had planned to open the links, but we just ran out of time, so we won't take more of your time. So please add your questions. If you have questions, in the chat. We're going to be here a few more minutes if you have any specific questions. And we invite you to attend the next session next Monday, that is going to be a recap of our summer conference. We're going to see the different, we offered 9 courses, and we had our conference this year virtually, and it started July 14 and finished August 14th. So we're going to have a recap of the main takeaways, those highlights from the different courses. So if you haven't signed up, sign up, and let me see if we have any questions, Susan. If not, if you want to finish our session today.
I don't see any more questions.
Okay. So thank you very much for joining us, and we ran out of time, but you have access. I'm going to add in the chat again our link so you can go and explore, and you will see all the other sessions. We have the information there so you can access. And remember that these resources are for you. So if you want to download, and if you are a lead teacher or an administrator and you want to get some of the activities that we have, you can use them, you can adapt them for your meetings, for your PLC. So everything that we do at the department is for educators in the state, and we want you to use it. So please do. And let us know if there is something else that you would like to know that maybe we haven't addressed, so then we can plan.
Thank you all for joining us. It was really great to have you here. And by all means, please reach out. We're here to help.
And I know everyone is going to contact Susan, so here is her email. And thank you for joining us. And as we said, send us an email if you think like, oh, I won't ask in the chat. Let me just go and explore the website, go and explore the WIDA document library. And after you explore, just say, hey, I still need to understand this. I have these questions. Then we are here to support you. So please feel free to do it. Thank you very much, Susan. I think we can stop the recording
I am
now.
just doing that right now.